Hello everybody, and welcome to this MateCat tutorial. In this video, we're going to learn everything that there is to know about MateCat and how it can help you produce faster and higher quality translations. In this video, we're going to cover, first of all, what is MateCat. Then we're going to take a look at how you can translate with MateCat the fast way. Then we're going to deep dive into the advanced options that MateCat provides, such as, for example, private and public translation memories, splitting rush projects and doing collaborative work, doing revisions, and many more. And finally, we're going to see how we can make a little extra money using MateCat. So without further ado, let's get to it. First of all, what is MateCat? MateCat is a CAT tool, which stands for Computer-Aided Translation. Essentially, it's a working platform where a professional translator can translate, thanks to the support of technology, much faster and producing much higher quality than they normally would if they used, for example, pen and paper. What are the main advantages of using MateCat? Well, first of all, it's completely web-based. This means that you can translate with MateCat anywhere you are in the world, provided that you have an internet connection. Then, it's completely free to use. There is no extra licensing, no hidden costs, literally nothing. You just type www.matecat.com and you will land here on this homepage where you can conveniently create your projects, and this completely for free. Then MateCat provides more translation suggestions than any other CAT tool on the market, thanks to its technology that supports private translation memories, public translation memories, and of course machine translation. We'll get to that in a few seconds. And finally, MateCat is very easily customizable. It can be integrated with your custom TMS, for example, or your custom company software, thanks to a set of REST API that will allow you to automate all the operations that I'm going to show you in this tutorial, and many more. Now, let's take a look at how you can translate with MateCat the fast way. First of all, I may want to log in to MateCat. It is not a necessary step, meaning that you can translate anonymously if you so desire. However, logging into MateCat grants you some benefits. First of all, it will allow you to store your private translation memories and reuse them more easily in the future. And secondly, it will grant you access to a management panel where you can store all the projects that you create and find them very conveniently in the future. So in this case, I'm going to log in with my Gmail account, which is the simplest way to log into MateCat. Otherwise, if I have a different provider, I can sign up a dedicated MateCat account. Now that I'm logged into MateCat, I'm going to create a very quick project. First of all, I'm going to provide my project a name. Then I will leave the default settings since I'm very happy with them. I will translate this file from English into Italian, and I will use the default settings for translation memory and theme selection. We'll deep dive into those in a moment. Then, to select my file, I will simply need to click here to browse, or I can drag and drop my file here in this box. As you can see, the upload is very fast. I will click on Analyze, and now MateCat will move on to the volume analysis phase, meaning that MateCat will count how many words are there in my file and how many words that can it provide suggestions for. Now, what I want to do to translate the fast way is simply click on Translate to have access to the MateCat editor. As you can see, the interface is very intuitive. Here there is the source text, here on the left, and on the right I can type my translation. So, to translate the fast way, now I will simply check if my suggestions are okay. In this case, I'm receiving some machine translation suggestion, which I'm going to edit, as you can see right here. Once I'm happy with my translation, I will simply click on Translate It, this big button right here, or I can press Command Enter in this case, or Control Enter if you're using Windows. MateCat will save my translation automatically and will store it in the translation memory for future reuse. To conclude my translation, I will simply perform the translation across all the segments that I have, and then I will be able to download the target document that I have uploaded to MateCat, fully translated. So in this case, let's say that I'm happy with this translation, and now I'm clicking on the button Get Tags, which I will explain to you in a few moments. Once I'm happy with all the translation, I can click right here at the top to download my translation, which is going to be fully ready to be delivered to the client. And I can find it here at the bottom left corner of the screen. Now, as you can see, it's very easy to translate with MateCat, but there's much more to it than that. So let's take a step back and let's dive into all the advanced options that MateCat provides you. So let's take a look at the advanced features of the homepage. You've seen how to give your project a name. Then you can select a theme from your list of available themes. And what this does basically, it will put this project into a separate space where you can access with more collaborators. For example, let's say that you have a team of translators that works for one specific client. You can create a team that is called with the name of your client, and all the people that work for that client will have access to this separate space, which is going to be accessible from the My Projects view here. And they will be able to see the project and their progress in real time, and they will be able to perform some operations that I will show you more in detail as soon as we're going to talk about the My Projects panel. From here you can select the language pair, and you can choose from over 190 languages. You can also create multilingual projects by clicking here on multiple languages, which will open a selector where you can select as many languages as you want to create your project. Then you can select a subject for your project, which is going to be useful to categorize your project in the My Projects view. And also it's going to be useful in case you want to outsource the translation through MateCat. From here, you can change the MateCat default settings, and you can decide whether you want to make your project confidential or whether you can contribute to the improvement of the public translation memory. Now let's take a look at this part. So from here I have access to my private translation memories, which can be accessed very easily from here, or I can decide to create a new resource. Now from this panel I can manage my translation memory and glossary settings. Now before we talk more in depth about this part, we first need to explain how the translation memories and glossaries work in MateCat. First of all, a translation memory is basically a repository of all your previous translations that MateCat is going to automatically check and propose to you when you upload a new project to MateCat. Essentially, what does this mean? It means that if I have translated The House is Red a year ago, I will not need to remember it on my own. There will be MateCat that is going to suggest me that I already have a translation for this specific text. MateCat in this sense is very unique because it is integrated with My Memory, which is a translation memory server. And it is the largest translation memory server in the world thanks to its over 4 billion contributions, which are provided voluntarily by professional translators and also public corpora of existing translations. For example, IATE, for example, the European Law Database, UN documentation, and many more. By default, MateCat will always provide you with suggestions from the public translation memory, which is very convenient, especially if you do not have a translation memory of your own or you're just starting to use MateCat. In any case, you will always have some suggestions to make your work faster and more accurate. But of course, you may want to start creating your own private translation memories, and you also may want to work on a project confidentially, so you do not want to share your personal translations on the public translation memory with the rest of the MateCat users. So in this case, what you need to do is create a new TM key. You can do that by clicking on New Resource. And what this does, MateCat will generate a password. So you can think of it as a private vault that is only going to be accessible by this special key. And the moment you do that, MateCat will store all the translations that you're going to produce in this private vault. And it's not going to be accessible by anybody else, unless you, of course, decide to share this key with other people. You can decide to give a name to your TM key. So for example, I will call this TM, which of course is going to be easier for me to recognize and associate to my next projects related to insurance work. And once I click confirm, as you can see, the private translation memory is going to be activated on the projects that I'm going to create. And in this case, what happens here is that the public translation memory is no longer going to be updated with new content, but only the private translation memory will be. So my project this way is going to stay confidential. I can add as many translation memories as I want, and I can also customize the settings. So for example, I can decide that I want to check the content from the medical TM, or actually I want to check the content, but I do not want to update it. I want for it to stay fixed. Or maybe I want for it to update, but it's empty, so it doesn't make much sense to search for content inside of it. It's entirely up to you. And the same thing, I can also decide that you may want to disable the public translation memory altogether, or you may want to keep it active and check if there are useful suggestions for you. From here, I can decide to import existing translation memory files. They need to be in TMX format. Or I can export the content of my TMX. In a similar way, I can import glossaries into my private translation memory key. And they need to be in Excel format, and they need to consist of 3 columns. One with the source, one with the target, and an optional 3rd column with comments and notes for my entries. Now, the main advantage of such a system is that it simplifies greatly the management of your terminology, because working with offline CAT tools, you normally would have to keep tens or dozens of individual TM files and glossaries. In MateCat, you can upload everything that you have in your private vault, and MateCat is going to automatically suggest you the best suggestion available. Optionally, I can decide also to apply a pre-translation of 100% matches from the translation memory, if available. Then I can customize the settings for machine translation. Now, MateCat provides for free machine translation, neural machine translation from Google Translate and Microsoft Translator. I can decide to activate or deactivate this before I create the project. Once I do, this setting cannot be changed once the project is created. And optionally, I can also add a machine translation engine of my own. So for example, let's say that I use ModernMT, which is Neural Adaptive Machine Translation. If I have a license with ModernMT, I can paste it here, and I can use ModernMT directly in MateCat. I also have the possibility of turning on some advanced options. For example, I can turn on dictation and speak my translation rather than type it. I can turn on the guest tag position, which may ring a bell. You've seen before in the previous part that there was a guest tag button. I will show you what this means and what this does in a second. You can also turn on the QA, which is provided by LexiQA. It will check for punctuation errors, numeral mismatches, symbol mismatches. So it will basically do an automated quality assurance of your text. And this works in real time. So if you activate it, the QA checker is going to notify you whenever there is something that needs your attention. Cross-language matches is also a very convenient feature in case you know more than one language. So what this does is that it's going to provide you, on top of the suggestions for your target language, it will provide suggestions also in similar languages that you know. For example, let's say that you translate into Italian and into Spanish, and you really don't know, you're really stuck with this specific segment into Italian. You can turn on the cross-language matches feature to see how the Spanish translator did, or if there is something existing, to get inspiration from that. And then you have the segmentation rules. So you can customize the way MateCat splits the text into smaller segments to make it easier, for example, when you work with patents, or if you have like a literary text that is heavily based on paragraphs. In terms of formats, MateCat supports 72 file formats, which basically means that you can throw anything you have at MateCat and MateCat will process it. MateCat is also integrated with Google Drive. So if you have some content stored on Google Drive, you simply connect your Drive account to your MateCat account from here. And you will be able, by clicking here, to translate your files directly from Google Drive. Now, let's get to the volume analysis page and see how it works. Now, here in the volume analysis, MateCat will calculate the amount of weighted words that actually need to be worked by the translator. Now, MateCat in this sense provides more matches than any other cut tool on the market because it provides suggestions from machine translation, the public translation memory, which is my memory, and of course your own private translation memories. From here, you can also copy the MateCat URL and assign it to a colleague of yours or a translator in case you are a project manager. You simply send them this link via email or in chat, and they will be able to access the job and work on it. You also have the option to split the project into multiple chunks. So for example, let's say that you have a 10,000 word job that needs to be translated tomorrow. You may not be able to do this yourself in one day, so you may want to collaborate with other people, let's say another person. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I will split this job in two different chunks. MateCat will do some calculations, and it will create two separate links that can be accessed by two different people, and they will be able to work at the same time, sharing the same translation memory, the same glossaries, and they will be able to communicate with one another in real time. So as you can see, this feature is very convenient for doing collaborative work and tackling rush projects. Once the job is done, of course, you can merge it back. So you can perform, for example, your final QA on a single link rather than performing individual QAs on as many chunks as you've created. Now let's take a look at the editor and the advanced feature that it provides. Now before I do that, let me create a new project so I can also demonstrate what the guest tags feature does. Now let's take a closer look at the editor. We can divide the editor into three main areas. First of all, we have the segment view. This is the space where you're going to see the segment, the source segment that you're working on, and you're going to produce your translation. In this area, you're also going to receive all the support that you need to perform your translation faster and more accurately. So you're going to receive the translation suggestions, and you're going to be able to browse through your past translations or your glossaries to produce your translation. Here at the top, you have the toolbar, which is going to provide you with some tools that you're going to need to do your work, such as search, filtering, comments. And here at the bottom, we're going to have the progress tracking area. So you're going to see the progress bar. You're going to see how many words you are translating and how many words are left to do. And once I get started with my job, so after approximately 10-15 segments, MateCat is going to calculate how much time it's going to take me to complete my job, which of course helps you to predict and manage your day more efficiently. Now, I've shown you before how to produce a translation, how to edit it, and how to confirm it, to save it in the translation memory. Right here, I'm going to view all the translation matches that are available for this segment. So for example, this segment is apparently the first time it's showing up in my translation memory. So MateCat is going to provide machine translation for it. So I'm going to edit it and I'm going to save it. The next time I'm going to receive this suggestion, it's going to show up probably as a 100% match, or if it's reasonably similar, as a 90%, 95%. It depends on how similar is going to be my next translation. Here I have the TM search, which is a tool that allows me to look for content inside my translation memory. For example, I want to check how I translated in the past the word dimostrativo. So I'm going to type dimostrativo right here, press enter, and then MateCat is going to show me that in my TM, I have translated this word as the test. I can also check the public translation memory if it's enabled. So it's very convenient to keep it on because it allows me to get more suggestions for my work. And then I have the glossary. In this case, I did not create a glossary prior to doing this tutorial, but I can do so right now while I work. So for example, I want to file an entry for the word tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I type the source right here. I'm going to type the target right here. And then optionally I can leave a comment. Once I press this button right here, MateCat is going to create a glossary for me and it's going to save it into my private translation memory. So the next time I use my private translation memory on the next project, I'm going to have all the translations that I have produced in this job, plus the glossary entries. MateCat will highlight them, as you can see here, with a purple underline, and it will show me in this tab how it's supposed to be translated. I can place the cursor here, for example, double click, and it's going to place it. Now, as you can see, what I typed, I inadvertently introduced a mistake. So after a strong punctuation sign, I did not capitalize this letter. So LexiQA is now activated and it's going to highlight the mistake. So as I can see, capitalization required after punctuation mark. So I can decide whether I want to ignore this warning or if I want to take action and correct it. Okay. Here we can see how guest text works. Now, this segment looks pretty straightforward, right? Just plain text. However, in the source file, this is formatted. So I know for a fact that there are some bold words, some underlined words. So one of the advantages of using a cat tool is that a cat tool preserves the layout and formatting of the job. But how does it do that? It uses a set of labels that are called tags. Now, thanks to the guest text feature, I'm able to focus on the text without worrying about placing the tags manually. Now, if I disable it, as you can see, MateCat shows me that, for example, strumenti professionali has some sort of formatting in the source file, which I need to preserve in the final translation. Now, to do that, I will need to place the cursor here. I can press the shortcut Option plus T, and this will show me a drop-down menu where I can select the tags that I want to insert. Okay, so what I will do is I will put the tags right here next to strumenti professionali. Okay, and I will need to place all the tags according to the source file in order to resolve any pending errors. Now, if these errors are not resolved, what will happen is that you may risk having wrong formatting in the target document, or you may compromise the file structure, and this may cause some issues, such as, for example, preventing download. So tag errors must be fixed in order to avoid any issues. However, you can decide to place tags differently. So for example, you may decide for some reason that the tag number 2 needs to go before tag number 1 because your translation requires to do so. This is of course legitimate. MateCat will return a warning, so in this case represented by a yellow color. This will basically warn you that you need to double check this, but it will not cause per se any issues. Now, Having the guest tags feature on provides a benefit. Now, having said this, what does guest tag do? Guest tags basically lets MateCat do all the dirty work of placing tags to preserve the formatting. So what I need to do here is simply produce the right translation. So once I'm happy with that, I can click on guest tags, and MateCat will automatically try to guess where those tags need to be put, thus saving you some time. So for example, here I can see that it made a little mistake, so I can click on it, drag and drop it, and as you can see, now the issue is resolved. Now, as you can see here in the progress bar, now the bar is filling up. This means that I'm going further ahead with my translation and I'm almost done. I can click on to do here to find very quickly the next segment that needs to be translated. So for example, let's say that I'm here. I can click on to do or this button, T plus the double arrows, and this will take me to the next segment that needs to be translated. Let's take a look at very quickly at the toolbar. Here you have a file list, which for example you can click on, and it will take you to the first segment of that specific file. Here you have a list of all the downloadables, so you can always download a draft version of the document, which contains a pre-translation of the machine translation or available suggestions that are in the document. And you can use that to get a sense of how the final document will be. And you can use it to understand whether there is going to be layout work that needs to be done. For example, if you're translating a very complex PDF, or if everything is going to be okay. You can download the original file. You can export the file into XLib, and of course you can upload this XLib into other CAT tools to continue the translation offline if you ever need to. Or you can export the job translation memory X file. From here, with this button, you can access the quality report, but we're going to take a look at that in a moment when we're going to see how the revision mode works. The QA section here works as follows. So let's say that I introduce a tag error, or maybe Lexica finds some kind of mistake. The QA section will light up, and it will provide me with a summary of all the errors that need to be addressed. So I can click here, and then navigate it, and MateCat will take me to the segment that needs attention. So I can go right here, intervene, fix the error, and then the QA bar will basically turn off. Then I can use Command F or click on the magnifying lens here to access the search mode. And this way I can search for content and I can do replace operations on my job. Here I can access the summary of my comments. So, for example, let's say that I'm doing this translation with other people. I can click here on the segment, then click on the bubble icon right here, and insert a comment. What this will do is generate a thread where all the people working on this document can see and communicate about specific issues. So, for example, they need to decide how to go about terminology. They need to do some to make other decisions about the translation, and they can very conveniently communicate directly inside the application. And here, of course, you can see all the open threads. By clicking on this final icon, you can filter the content of MateCat, and you can filter by segment status or filter by match type. And from here, you can access the settings. So you can customize the advanced options, for example, or customize the translation memory settings. Now, one important thing to note, when you're working on the editor and you're working on a job that you yourself have created, you will be able to manipulate the active resources that have been applied during the project creation. However, if you have received a link from a project manager and you're working on someone else's project, you will not be able to change these basic settings. However, you will be able to use one of your inactive resources. So for example, you will be able to add one of your own. You can use it normally, but you will not be able to modify the original settings. What will also happen is that you will not be able to see the password of the project owner. This way, privacy is ensured when assigning jobs to other people. So to exemplify, I will log out for a second, go to the project settings, and as you can see here, since I'm not logged out, I'm not logged in, I cannot see the inactive resources that are available, and I cannot do anything on this job, and I cannot see what the key is. So effectively, I'm not able to download the content or access it, or I cannot do anything. Now, I will log back in. And now let's take a look at the menu. Here in the menu, I can access the revision mode, I can access the volume analysis, a utility tool that will allow me to convert any XLIF file exported from MateCat into the target file, and then I can see a list of shortcuts, which of course will allow me to forget about the mouse and use MateCat only with the keyboard as much as possible. Now, this is pretty much everything there is to know about the translation mode, but there's more to it than that. So let's take a look at how you can make revisions using MateCat. Before I proceed, I will just confirm these last translations, and then I will move on to revision mode. The revision mode is essentially identical to the translation mode, with a few key differences. First of all, you can see that the color code changes to green. So a segment that has been approved by a reviser will be shown as green. Then here you can access a revision panel, which will allow you to select a type of issue for the translation. So for example, let's say that layout here is considered to, or Siokova is not correct. So let's say that I want to change this. And I think this is a style problem. So let's say it's a minor style problem. So I will select an issue from here, a severity level, which ranges from neutral to minor to major. Neutral has no impact on the quality score provided for this translation. Minor has a relatively low impact. Major, of course, has a big impact. Everything is proportionate to the amount of words that are present in the job. So one major error in a 2,000-word job will have relatively little impact. One major error in a 50-word job, of course, is not acceptable. So once I'm happy with the issue that I've selected, optionally I can insert a comment to clarify. Then I click on approved, and what it does is that it will generate a quality report with a quality score that will be useful for the translator to learn and improve their work. Now, concluding the revision work is pretty much identical to the translation work. So what I need to do is click on the approve button in this case to confirm the final revision and save it into the translation memory. Plus, I will need to indicate any issues for all the segments that I've edited in order to provide useful feedback to the translator. Once the translation is complete, I can optionally leave some feedback. Now, as you can see, this button suddenly lit up. This will take me to the quality report. Now, the quality report, as I've said before, shows you all the issues that have been introduced in the job. So I can see a grid where, for example, I can view that I've inserted one style issue that has this much weight. And here MateCat does all the calculations for me. What else can I see for a quality report? Of course, I can see the progress, I can see how many words have been reviewed, I can see how much time it took to edit the job overall, and I can also see the post-editing effort, meaning how much did the human change the suggestions from the machine, or from the existing translation memories for that matter. Here you can see the revision feedback that was provided. And then I can see the details segment by segment. So I can see what was the source, what was the suggestion, what is the translation that was provided, and what is the revision. By clicking on the eye icon right here, I can also see the difference between one segment and its previous version. Here I can filter by, for example, the status of the segments. I can filter by issue category, so I can focus very conveniently on the segments that contain some sort of issue, or I can focus on the severity of the issues reported. Now to conclude, let's take a look at the My Projects panel. The My Projects panel is going to be your hub to store all the projects that you create yourself inside MateCat. What can we see here? We can see the project name, we can see the language pair, the amount of words that have been translated, and we can see if there are any TMs associated to the job, and if there are open threads that need to be resolved, or if there are quality issues. In this case, a bell will show up. I can then see who is the assignee, and I can see in which team this project is located. Now you may remember that we've talked about teams when we were checking the homepage. Now here it's more clear what this means. So from this part, I can create a new team. So for example, I've already created a team for client 1. So when I click on this team, as you can see, the amount of projects changes. This means that in this team, I will only see the projects that belong to the client 1. In this team, I can also invite more people. So I can invite different members. And these members will be able to see in their My Projects panel this project. They can track the progress in real time. They can do the same operations as I can do. Now, this is useful, for example, in a scenario where you're building a company and you are the project manager. So you want to create a team and collaborate, for example, with the internal people. So the internal people will be able to access these projects and, for example, download the translation memories, change the settings, whereas external translators that are assigned to the job will only be able to view the editor and work on the editor without downloading, for example, the master translation memories, or change the main settings besides the advanced option. From here, you have an option to search by project name and filter by active, archived, or cancelled projects. Now to conclude, let's take a look at how you can make some extra money with MateCat. Now, you may have noticed this Buy Translation button. Now, what does it do? It generates an instant quote provided by Translated, the leading online translation company that has also developed MateCat. Let's say that a client asks you a translation in a language pair that you do not cover normally, but you do not want to say no to them. So what you can do is you can outsource the translation to Translated, pay for the raw cost of the job, and MateCat will take care of the translation for you. Here you can see also who is going to be selected for your job and the ratings, and you can see a summary of their experience. MateCat and Translated will automatically select the best available translator for your job and make a quote based on this selection. You can actually decide to add a revision, which of course increases the price a little bit, and you can select a custom deadline by which you mandatorily need the project. So as you can see, this is a way to expand your business very quickly, especially if you want to cover more language pairs, but of course do not have maybe the time, or you do not want to make the investment to find resources of your own. You can simply use MateCat, buy the raw translation, and then sell it to your clients. The very last thing I want to show you is this support chat right here, which you can use to contact the support team in case you need any assistance with your job. You can also use it to access the knowledge base. So if you want, for example, to understand how the translation memories work, it would suggest you a set of articles that you can use to expand your knowledge about MateCat and find assistance on your own. We've reached the end of the tutorial, and as you can see, there's a lot on MateCat that you can do, and it's very simple to use and very easy to jump right in. Whether you are a newcomer in the translation industry or whether you are a veteran or a language service provider, there's a lot that you can do with MateCat to expand your business, translate faster and more efficiently, and most importantly, everything that I've shown you can be automated and integrated with your own tools or translation management systems. To get started, simply type www.matecat.com and you're good to go. No need to download anything, no need to pay any extra licensing. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at info@matecat.com and we'll be happy to reply. Thank you so much for watching, enjoying the evolution with us.